Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, we are from the 11th group. In this presentation, we will explain about grammar and semantics, case, gender, and mood. Okay, before we go into our material, I will introduce the member of the group. For the first member is Alfiaturrohmaniah, second member is Zainal Abidin, and the last myself, Ade Afrilda. Okay, in this presentation we have 6 points. The first is case, the second point is gender, the third point is mood, the fourth is statements, questions, and comments. The fifth is subjunctive mood, and the last is epistemic and semantic modality. Okay, for the first point, case, will be explained by me. Case has to do with how languages signal the relationship between the verb and the nouns in a clause. In many languages, noun consists of a central stem to which case endings or case suffix are ended. Kasus itu berkaitan dengan bagaimana bahasa menandakan hubungan antara verb dan noun. Hubungan kata kerja atau verb noun relationship are also signaled, juga ditandai dengan word order and preposition. Next, the term case has traditionally been used for the typical Indo-European noun suffix system, as for some case terms such as accusative, nominative, and ablative. Okay, for the first case is nominative, used for subject and predicate nominative. Kasus nominatif adalah kasus tata bahasa untuk nouns dan pronouns. Kasus ini digunakan ketika kata benda atau kata ganti itu berkedudukan sebagai subjek atau kata kerja. The nominative case have some example such as I, we, you, he, she, it, they, and who. The second is accusative. The accusative case of noun is the grammatical case used to mark the direct object of a transitive verb. Dan untuk kasus akusatif adalah kasus dari tata bahasa yang digunakan untuk menandai sebuah direct object dari kata kerja transitif. For the last case is ablative. The ablative case is used as the object of the preposition. Okay, next. The case suffixes signal the relations between the nouns in a clause and the verb, and they signal which adjective modify which noun, and which noun modifies a given prepositions. In English, the relations between verb and noun in clause are signaled by position and by the presence or absence of preposition. All other nouns in a clause are connected to the verb by a preposition. Nah, untuk di kalimat bahasa Inggris atau di sebuah klausa dalam bahasa Inggris, biasanya verb and nouns dalam sebuah klausa itu ditandai dengan adanya preposition. But does not mean that all prepositions signal verb-noun relations. They can also signal noun-noun relations and adjective-noun relations. Nah, the first example is the face on the table. Di sini kalimat the face on the table signal noun-noun relations. And for the second example, rich in minerals is signal for adjective-noun relations. Okay, next, the second point is gender. Gender has to do with the different classes of nouns in a given language. Nouns divide into classes based largely on natural gender, such as he, she, or it. In other language, nouns referring to inanimate objects fall into classes labeled masculine or feminine. But the reason has to do with the grammatical behavior of the nouns and not their meaning. Okay? Gender is not related to the sex of the object denoted, but it's really just a means of sub-classifying nouns as masculine or feminine, or masculine, feminine, or neither. In contrast, natural gender depends on the sex of the object in the real world. In this system, we distinguish masculine, feminine, common or dwell into some symbol, M or F, and neuter is sexless genders. Latin nouns fall into various classes called genders, and that they are misleadingly named masculine gender, feminine gender, and neuter gender. The different classes of noun are grammatically important. A noun belongs to determines which case suffixes it takes and which case suffixes any modified adjectives take. Gender is expressed by inflection only in personal pronouns and only in the third person singular, such as he, she, it. The first and second person forms, such as I, we, and you, are common gender. And while the third person plural form they is either common gender or neuter. For example, the people, they, and the boots. Nah, jadi gender diekspresikan dengan infleksi hanya dalam kata ganti orang dan hanya pada orang ketiga dan tunggal, seperti he, she, and it. Bentuk orang kesatu dan orang kedua seperti saya, kami, dan Anda, atau I, we, and you adalah common gender. While sedangkan untuk bentuk jamak orang ketiga, mereka adalah jenis yang umum atau netral, seperti the people, they, and the birds. Okay, we have some example here for masculine, feminine, and gender neutral. Seperti yang dijelaskan tadi ya, bentuk orang pertama dan kedua itu adalah common gender, sedangkan untuk bentuk orang ketiga itu adalah gender yang netral atau umum. Nah, di sini kita punya beberapa contoh. For example, man is labeled for masculine, woman feminine, and person is gender neutral. Father masculine, mother feminine, and parent is gender neutral. Boy is masculine, girl is feminine, and child is labeled for gender neutral. And the last is husband, labeled for masculine, wife labeled for feminine, and spouse is labeled for gender neutral atau umum yang netral. Okay, I think enough for me. Next presentation is mood. Will explain by the other member of the groups. Okay, time is yours. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Zainal Abidin, and now I will continue the next material. The next material is mood. Mood deals with speaker's perception of the reality of a propositions. All propositions must be marked for mood. The most common mood is the declarative mood, also called the indicative mood. Here, the speaker quietly asserts the sentence as being true or factual. Whether or not he is correct is an issue that belongs to real-world pragmatics, not grammatical correctness. And we are moved to statement, question, and comments. The first is statements. Speaker can make statements about situations. For the example, this is happening, that's happened. And the second is questions. They can ask questions about situation and about participants in situations. For example, is this happening? Did it happen? And the third is comments. They can require or request that particular situation. For the example, be quiet or not quiet. Do this, don't do that. And the next is they can present situations as factual. For example, this happened and this did happen. And then they can present situation as possible. For example, this might happen, and then they can present situation as necessary. This has to happen. That must happen. And they can state their authority for making statement. For example, evidently she has decided to change job. And I know for a fact that this plan is unsafe. And the last is they can present situations as the objects of wishes, hopes, or fears. For example, I wish he had better manners, and she is afraid he is going to make a fool of himself. Enough for me, and then the next material will be explained by my friends. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Alfiaturrohmaniah. I will continue the presentations. Now I will explain the first material is subjunctive mood. The term subjunctive moods relate to special sets of verb form. Jadi istilah subjunctive mood berhubungan dengan bentuk kata kerja yang khusus. The subjunctive mood is the verb form used to explore a hypothetical situation or to express a wish, a demand, or a situation or a suggestion. Jadi subjunctive mood adalah bentuk kata kerja yang digunakan untuk mengeksplorasi situasi atau sesuatu yang mengungkapkan keinginan, permintaan, atau saran. The subjunctive form were used in order to present a situation as a remote reality, the speaker being in difficulties, or as possibly remote from reality, this being true. Jadi bentuk subjunctive digunakan untuk menyajikan situasi yang jauh dari kenyataan, membicara berada dalam kesulitan atau sebuah kebenaran. The next is the example of the subjunctive mood. Am or is to be in the present tense. The normal example, I'm available. You are lucky, she is here. Diubah dalam bentuk subjunctive. Be. The subjunctive example, I demand that I be available. I ask you be truthful. It's essential that she be here. Has. Third person singular have to have in the present tense. The normal example is she has a chance. Diubah dalam bentuk subjunctive menjadi have. The example, I demand she have a chance. Was. First person and third person singular have to be in the past tense. The normal example is I was free, he was happy. Diubah dalam bentuk subjunctive menjadi were. The example, if I were free, I go. I wish he were happy. And the next, prepares, work, sings, etc. The person singular verb in the present tense, wants and it ends. The normal example is she makes sushi. Diubah dalam bentuk subjunctive, yaitu prepare, work, sing, etc. Remove the s. The example is I propose she makes sushi. The next material is epistemic and deontic modality. What is the modality? Modality is the speaker attitude or opinion toward the situation or state of affairs described. Jadi modalitas adalah sikap atau pendapat pembicara terhadap situasi atau keadaan yang digambarkan. Modal auxiliary verb are used to show modality. Kata kerja modal digunakan untuk menunjukkan modalitas. The English modal include can, could, might, will, would, should, dan etc. together with their negative form. Jadi modal dalam bahasa Inggris termasuk can, could, dan lain sebagainya digunakan dalam bentuk yang dinegasiasikan. The next is the types of modality. The first is epistemic modality. Epistemic derives from the Greek epistem or knowledge. An epistemic modality relates to the way, the mood in which speakers know a situation. Do they know that it exists? Do they consider it as merely plausible, or do they treat it as necessarily exciting, although they have not seen it themselves on the basis of evidence? Jadi tipe modalitas yang pertama adalah modalitas epistemik, yaitu berasal dari bahasa Yunani epistem atau pengetahuan. Model epistemik berhubungan dengan cara atau mode di mana pembicara mengetahui sebuah situasi. Apakah mereka tahu itu ada? Apakah mereka menganggapnya hanya kemungkinan, atau apakah mereka memperlakukannya sebagai sesuatu yang pasti ada, walaupun mereka belum melihatnya sendiri berdasarkan bukti. Epistemic possibility is expressed by could, might, or might. Jadi epistemic possibility atau kemungkinan itu dinyatakan dengan modal could, might, or might. The example is she could, might, or might be in the library. This means the sentence is it is possible that she is in the library. And in the second types is deontic modality. Deontic derived from the Greek verbs deontai. Deontic modality relates to whether speaker present a situation as a possible because permission has been given or unnecessary because circumstance required. Yang tipe kedua adalah modalitas deontik. Deontik berasal dari kata Yunani deo atau mengikat. Modal deontik berkaitan dengan apakah penutur menyediakan suatu situasi karena izin yang telah diberikan atau seperlunya karena keadaan yang mengharuskannya. The deontic necessity is expressed by must, have to, and have got to. Jadi deontic necessity atau keharusan itu dinyatakan dengan modal must, have to, and have got to. The example is you don't have to come to work tomorrow. Next is the table of modal verbs to classification that is deontic or epistemic. The first is modal can or could. The meaning is permission. This is deontic. You can leave now. Could I go now, please? The second is possibility. This is epistemic. Can it be seen? And the next is ability. This is deontic. I can speak French. And the second modal is my or might. The meaning is permission. This is deontic. You may smoke. Make me have another one. The next possibility. This is epistemic. He may be at home. It may get too hot. And the next modal is will or would. The meaning is foolishness. This is deontic. The example, I will answer you in a minute. The next is prediction. This is epistemic. The example, that will be the doctor who will have kids he was young. And the next modal, should or should. The meaning is obligation. This is deontic. You should write more legibly. A regulative. This is deontic. The committee should consider the hearings. And the next is volitions. This is deontic. We should promise you to bring your father back home. And the next probability. This is epistemic. The example is I shall be leaving soon. The next is prediction. Epistemic. The example, you should be very unhappy on the continent. And the last is modal must. The meaning is obligation. This is deontic. You must be patient. And the last is certainly. This is epistemic. The example is it must be your sister on the phone. Okay, that's enough for my explanation. Thank you for listening our presentation from group 11. If there are any mistake that presentation delivered, we say sorry. And I hope everyone is good condition. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.